beautiful people. This is Shantel Lamar, and I'm opening up a new segment called Shantel Talks because I definitely want to bring some people on, regular everyday people, but that may have stories to tell that we're not always in communication with. So today we have the beautiful Layla. I'm going to let her come on. I'm on a second video, adding her in just so she can maybe answer a few questions and tell her story. She is a transgender woman. She has been transitioning for a while. I do know her very personally. This particular interview came about because y'all is crazy online, right? So I made a comment that I did not want to be referred to as a cisgender woman, and it really blew up. Like, I've blocked at least 80 people since I said that. And it became very frustrating to me because it felt like, as a natural woman or born woman, why can't I express how I want to be identified as? However, just human decency would be respecting how you feel and what you want to be identified as. And it felt like it was so strange because it was kind of a catch-22. Like, if anybody should understand this, it should be you guys. So I was really lost, and I did always feel like I was an ally to the community. I've known Layla a long time, like since 6th grade, and I am 36. So a very long time. I feel like I'm very understanding, but I will say all the negativity and hate I was starting to get, they were going low, and I went to hell. I'm not going to lie, because I'm a Scorpio, and that's what we do. And you're not going to disrespect me and then expect me to respect you and then tell me who I am and to get over it. Not, okay, so now we're just going to be disrespectful. But that is not how I want to carry things, especially when it comes to identities, mental health, because I understand the way you identify and see yourself can affect your mental health. So I definitely didn't want to carry on that way, but they had me real messed up. So I called Layla so we could have a conversation, and I knew I wanted to make a YouTube video about it. So once I realized, because Layla's so bad, I'm gonna tell you the truth, I completely forgot about her transition. She's just a bad biatch. So once I started to think about how I want to do this video, I decided, you know what, it may be good to just bring in people and not necessarily just spew my opinion and my experience, because I'm on the outside looking in. But let her tell her story. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in the beautiful Miss Layla, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you so much. So I want to start by you just kind of discussing your journey as a transgender woman. So I know you personally, so we can actually go back, and then I want you to tell me how you ended up realizing or understanding that this eventually was where you wanted to be.
Okay. Well, let's keep in mind though that I am only speaking from my journey. I'm not here to talk for every other trans person or as the community as a whole. This is just strictly on my specific journey. But we were just, we were raised in Oklahoma where, this kind of thing wasn't talked about, educated on, and ever since I can remember, before I even knew about like what sexuality was or sexual preference was, I would just constantly think, I wish I was a girl. It would be so much better. I wish I was a girl. And then growing up, the only kind of representation I saw growing up was like Jerry Springer and Maury Povich. Like, is it a man or is it a woman? And I'm like, I don't want to be, viewed like that. I'm not a joke, I'm not the butt of somebody else's joke. But
Right.
and so growing up, I was male and I knew I liked men. So I was like, well, I guess I'm gay because that's the only thing I know that's for sure. And then in my 20s is when I met finally my first few people that were transitioning and transgender, and sat and talked with them. And, the light bulb just went off like, this is what the deal is. This is your whole life right here. It's not just, on a TV show. It's a possibility you can make this happen. And, every Halloween I used to dress up as a girl just because I knew I could pull it off. And so I was like, well, if I can live like that and get the acceptance that I got, on Halloween from people just viewing me as how I feel as just a woman, then sweet, I'm glad. And at 25, I told my family and friends on my birthday, March 19th, that, hey, in the next month, I'm going to give you guys a month to adjust. But this is what's going to happen. And I'm going to start transitioning and living full time as a woman and working as a woman. And, that former persona, would be gone. And so, and sure enough, a month later, I threw away all my old clothes, just cleaned house and started, and told myself, I'm not going to start any hormones or anything like that for like 6 months, because I didn't know for sure if this would have answered that question. All I did know was that I wasn't necessarily like suicidal, but I could have cared less to live anymore. And I was like, well, you better get busy living or get busy dying. And dying wasn't the option. So I was like, okay, let's try this and see if this is what the problem was this whole time. And started and never looked back. And here we are a little over 10 years later.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, I've told you this before privately. I mean, absolutely privately. But I do want to tell you publicly, because I've known you so long. I'm extremely proud of you for living your truth, because I know it's not necessarily an easy journey. I do want to back up and piggyback on something you said. You said that even when you were younger, before you even understood sexual preference, you just felt like if I was a girl, it would be better. So there's a lot of argument about how people in the gay community are raised, what they see, what they're around, how they're treated as a young man or woman, which may make them want to feel different. So what made you feel like you would feel better? Is it because of society, or was it something internal?
It was me. It was inside. What's weird is, like, prior to transitioning, that's when I cared the most about what other people thought of me. But then after transitioning, I finally had accepted myself. So if somebody else didn't accept me, it didn't bother me anymore. Previously, all I wanted was to be not popular, but be accepted, and for people to just like me and crave attention. And then after transitioning, that was so
But
far back.
you wanted to be yourself.
Right.
Okay. So when you became adolescent and you did start to understand sexual preferences, that's where you just probably figured, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think I'm just, gay, because like you said, there wasn't a lot of representation back then. We had RuPaul, who is a legend, but even that was still kind of a
But
character.
that was a drag queen, it wasn't, it's not somebody who completely lived and changed the whole way,
Now, you may see RuPaul interview fully dressed up as a man, and then you may see.
You would rather been born a woman. No. I'm very happy with being a big old black man. But it's just. It's just a lot of, I'm an entertainer, and, I've done lots of different personas. But this one, baby, this one clicks. The children respond to me in drag, okay?
Him fully, so it still wasn't the same, and I'm sure it still wouldn't have answered questions that you may have had about yourself, because it wasn't like necessarily the same thing. And let's talk about that, because I do think people completely mistake a transgender, cross-dresser, and drag. So I'm going to ask you about Kris Jenner. What would you consider Kris Jenner?
I don't know if I have an unpopular opinion on, you mean Caitlyn Jenner?
Oh, my bad.
No, it's okay. Kris Jenner is, mama, queen of the Kardashians. But Caitlyn Jenner, was the former Bruce. But to me, I have, not a popular opinion on it. I kind of feel like Caitlyn Jenner is to trans people what Candace Owens is to people of color. It's like, yeah, you can say you're one of us, but you can't relate to any of how we've had to live whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
Caitlyn Jenner got to go and transition in private in a Hollywood Hills mansion all by herself and had the money to do it all at once. And that's not how the rest of us had to experience it.
And that's why I felt like it was important for me to have this interview, because I feel like the people in your community that have the voice are not necessarily living the same truth and life and struggles as like just an everyday person that's just having to apply to a regular job. Like, they don't have a following. And I guess you could say it's kind of a catch-22, because I'm sure they also endure a lot much more negativity and hate because so many people have access to them. But that same access allows them to be a little bit more privileged, which kind of does also lead me to the transgender activist at the White House that has been banned from the White House for showing her lady boobs, which were nice, but not appropriate. How do you think that, because sometimes even in our community as a Black woman, someone does something, and even though it may not be a reflection on all of us, we just feel that stain, and it just feels like a setback a little bit. So what were your thoughts on that?
I don't know in the specific thing you're talking about. However, I can speak as to, the trans people who do get attention from the media. And of course, the media, like mainstream media, pick the biggest caricatures, that there are, that, again, they do not represent the other 99.9% of us that are out here, like genuinely just trying to survive, especially in places like where we're at in Oklahoma. I don't hide it, but I also can't tell, people like, hey, I'm Layla and I'm transgender because, I'm a barber. And it's like we were talking about the other day. I have clients who will sit in my chair. I do men's hair, and majority of my clients will sit in my chair and just spew this, homophobic, transphobic, just stuff that, and I have to sit there and just nod my head, and be like, yeah, it must be the hormones in the chicken. I don't know, because it not only would it cost me my job, but I'm worried it could cost me my life one day. So I don't like how the media focuses so much on like the Dylan Mulvaney, with the whole Bud Light thing and this and that. That is not the life that the rest of us are out here living or trying to live. We are just trying to survive, go into the restroom, use our restroom. We're not coming for your kids. We're not looking at your wives, none of that. We just are trying to just have the basic rights of being alive and just trying to, live. That's it. There's no, not from me at least, there's no hidden agenda. I'm not out here trying to, push my stuff on anybody. I feel like a problem with the younger generation of trans people today is that they expect acceptance and they get mad if they don't have it. But that's not the world we live in. If you don't like me, that's fine, but I'm not going to, force you to use my pronouns if you don't want to, or deal with me if you don't want to. That's going to happen. Not everyone is going to accept you or deal with you the way that you want them to.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, I think that is the most basic human right we can offer, is to use the correct pronoun when we're aware. So I know I feel like a lot of the fight between born women and trans women is born women kind of feeling like they're being pushed out, mainly due to media. But then also, when we don't know something, or when we do get something wrong, there seems to be this humongous backlash of anger. And this is just from everyday people just on social media in the comment section.
Right.
I was just going to ask you, what do you do with those emotions when you get those clients that are disrespectful unknowingly? Do you think that some of that everyday struggle is why it comes out so aggressively in situations where someone necessarily doesn't mean any harm?
Well, my clients unknowingly do it. None of my clients, maybe 2 out of all the clients that I have, know about me being trans. But so the ones that are, unknowingly saying the hateful stuff that they're saying, I don't hold it against them. However, what I do hope is that if and when they do find out about me being trans, they'll be like, oh, well, I knew one of them. They weren't that bad. You know, they weren't this monster that everyone is portraying them as, and hopefully just maybe change just one of their minds. I know it's never going to be fully accepted all across the board, but if I can just touch one person's soul, you know, to make them just open up, you know, and be like, okay, well, I had somebody cut my hair for almost 4 years that was like that, and I didn't know. And they were okay. You know, they weren't this big monster that everyone seems to think, well, not everyone, but a lot of people seem to think that we are.
And girl, you're dope. So I have no doubt that that's going to be the end result. And I guess I should reword my question, because I know you can't speak for everyone in the community, but there does seem to be a lack of, I always say, sometimes you have to educate people in love and kind of give them a chance to either reciprocate that and then be respectful, or if they continue to be open and respectful at that point, then you can handle it accordingly. What I know is that a lot of times there's no correction in love. It's like an immediate gut punch when someone says something wrong or accidentally misgenders or doesn't understand something about the community. There's not a lot of leeway from the community. So what do you think is going on? Do you think that your brothers and sisters in the fight are fed up? Do you think the younger generation is just a little bit more sensitive? What do you think it is?
Both.
Or social media?
Both. I think that the younger generation is extremely more sensitive, but I think that also has to do with social media, to where anybody can put out any kind of opinion they want, and they'll have like 300 other people agree with them, even if majority of everyone else who see that post don't. But so yeah, I think the younger generation is sensitive, but I don't know.
I know that's probably a harder question, because
I think that, and I also feel like, as far as being fed up, I feel like everyone in 2023 right now, if you have a pulse, you're tired. You know, it doesn't just have to do with the trans fights or the people of color fights. We are all just exhausted. You know, we are finally, for the first time, actually believing the fact that our government has not any care for us, none whatsoever. And so it seems like we're just fighting this battle that we can't win. And so now we're all at this point of just, well, you know, we're just losing hope. And that's what's scary. But I think it's not just trans people that are tired. It's not just people of color that are tired. It's everyone. We're all tired. And what is sad is that, you know, what these people rely on is keeping us against each other. You know, as long as we got people out there who will hate queer people, great. Let's keep that stirred up. As long as we got racist people out there that hate Black people, wonderful. Let's keep that stirred up. Let's keep this kind of narrative in the news that will keep them constantly looking at each other. That way they can't look at us. And I just, you know, the hope that I would have is that one day we can just step past that. You can have your opinion, but we need to come together as a species, you know, as people, and see what we can accomplish then, and then we can go after the rest later. But yeah, I think we're all fed up with everything.
Who do you think, excuse me, in your journey as a transgender woman, who do you think has been your biggest adversary? Like, who do you notice is typically the hardest when it comes to accepting you and being respectful?
Well, it was so strange, because everyone that I thought would be accepting of me were the ones who actually weren't. And then so like I've got, you know, my dad's side of the family who are very progressive, you know, they, as far as ideals go. And then my mom's side of the family that we're all a bunch of hillbillies. So I was really worried, you know, that my mom's side of the family would be like, oh no, absolutely not. And that my dad's side of the family would be like, okay, yeah, but it was the opposite. My mom's side of the family were like, now this makes sense. We get this. And then my dad's side of the family, I have not spoken to since they found out. And it, of course it hurts, because, you know, you want, of all people, to love and accept you as your family. So yeah, it hurts, but I don't consider anybody my adversary, because that would mean that there's a battle going on. The battle's not with me or within me. That's on whoever else has that in them. I have no ill will or aggression toward all these people who are so against it. There's nothing I can do about that. All I can do is control my little environment, and that's what I focus on, because I cannot control anything outside of this house.
I love that. The battle is not within me. I really like that. So if you could describe your journey in one word, what would it be?
Relentless. Relentless in many ways, relentless in the journey of me trying to find happiness, relentless in the people that, do not accept us, relentless in every way. It's just relentless. And I don't necessarily mean that negatively, but both.
No, I get it.
It's been positively relentless and negatively relentless.
Right. No, I absolutely get it. Absolutely. So another hot topic, Demi Lovato, at one point she wanted to be referred to as them and they. And then one day she woke up and said, this is so exhausting. Just go back to calling me her and she. Do you feel like things like that sets back you guys' fight? Because I'm going to be honest, one hand, I kind of get how she feels like when racial issues happen and I have to keep explaining things. I do get sometimes to a point where I'm like, listen, Google is free. It is not my job to teach you not to be a racist. However, I think the difference is, and where sometimes those arguments come in, is that I can't just decide, okay, I don't want to be a Black woman anymore because this is so tiring. How does it make you feel when people jump in and out of the community like that?
The same way as it does with race, as far as I am 36, so I'm a millennial, and we did not have non-binary, not that we were, again, educated of, but I think a lot of that just has to do with education. I didn't even know it was a thing until it became a thing publicly. And I don't understand it, but that's not for me to understand. That's for them. But of course, it sucks when people, especially like celebrities, come out and they're like, this is what I am or am not, and then get tired of the backlash and revert. Of course, that does damage for the rest of the community who are like, I know what I am. I am living my truth, not deal with it, but here, so yeah, it sucks for people to flip flop or think they even have the option to flip flop. Because I mean, technically, I guess I would be non-binary. I was born male, feel female, so that's both. That's what they them are. They don't feel according to either one way or another. But I don't view myself as that. I just grew up in a time where you're either man, woman, trans woman. I don't know. It seems, I don't want to say extra because that's negatively about it. But I'm learning about it too, as somebody in the community, all these extra letters that are now on the LGBT plus stuff. When I was growing up, it was just LGBT. But now there's a never-ending alphabet mafia attached to it, and that's my joking way of saying it, But yeah, I'm learning too. People in the community are learning right along with people who are not in the community.
And I will say, outside looking at, I think what makes it difficult for you guys is when we see that happen, our mind immediately says, the whole point to me in being a trans woman is this is legitimately what I feel in my DNA should have been. And I'm living in who I should have been. So when we see celebrities or high profile people go back and forth, or kind of like the Instagram couple where the trans man was pregnant, it feels like you're cherry picking what you want from your birth self. Because if you want to say, I'm a trans man, I want to be referred to, treated as, identified as such, my ID card, all of that, men can't physically get pregnant.
Right.
Do you feel
I think
that should be?
I feel like as far as us seeing that stuff, that us as the public are the ones cherry picking how we interpret it. I think that as far as coming from them, they're just living their life, and if one partner can carry a baby that the other partner can't, sweet. I may live as a man, but hey, my wife can't carry this baby, but technically I still can. I don't think that they are thinking about it like, oh, well, this is, like cherry picking it. I think that that's on us as the viewer, who are the ones cherry picking how we are viewing it. Again, I think that with us, we're just trying to live. We're not trying to push this on anybody. Not me, at least. I'm not trying to change the kids or make you like it. No, I'm just out here trying to survive. That's it. Like anybody in 2023, just trying to survive.
Do you think there should be different terminology for that? Because in the fight to get everybody to understand what it means to be transgender, now we can't wrap our brain around it because they're trying to live their life, but we're like, so I don't understand now. So do you think there should be
terminology will help? I think that people who want to open up about it and talk about it like you're doing and learn more about it will do that. But there's a majority of people who it doesn't matter what name you put on it, they're not going to care.
They're going to feel how they feel. Okay, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree. I guess they could probably explain it to their blue in the face, and some people are still not going to get it. Okay. So let me ask you, since we're on the topic of babies and love and marriage, what does dating look like for a transgender woman? Like, how did it start? Was it something you had to work toward? Like, what is your dating journey like?
Well, for me, when I was living as a gay man, I had one boyfriend my entire life as a man, and we lasted for 3 or 4 years. And then after that, I didn't date anybody for another 4 years. Not at all. But that was part of my inner struggle, was that I used to call myself a homophobic homo, just because I did not relate to the rest of gay male community. I did not want to be viewed as a gay man. I did not enjoy the gay clubs. All I wanted was to be a woman and date, I guess, straight guys, quote unquote. I didn't want them to be feminine. So masculine guys, not straight guys, but masculine guys. So when I started transitioning, I was worried. I was like, well, I didn't date for 4 years prior to this, so there goes that in a hole. However, I was pleasantly surprised to know that, or find out that it was the complete opposite. Because there's a lot of men out there who are just curious, not about necessarily messing with a man. However, I think that they have this very specific fantasy in their head of what they do want to experiment with. And that's why it's easier for these, quote unquote, straight guys to, experiment with trans women, is because we offer everything that they're used to being with and that they're comfortable with the extra stuff that they're curious about. So for me, dating was easy. However, not dating, hooking up was easy. I had nonstop men that wanted to hook up with me. Dating was different, because when it came down to introducing me to friends or family, that's where it ended. So I stayed everyone's dirty little secret for a majority of it. But yeah, so hooking up was easy. Dating was not so much. And then the guys that would date me, when it came to introducing me to friends or family, that's where it ended pretty fast, because I could tell that they weren't doing it because they were worried about how they would be viewed. And look, I just didn't have the energy to deal with their feelings of rejection on top of mine, but I met Chris, my current boyfriend, at a pool hall that I used to work at, Slick Willie's. And when I met him at the bar, he came up to me, thinking I'm just a regular chick. Now, with me, when it comes to telling men, to me, it's too dangerous not to. It's too dangerous to be like, wait until we're making out and then, go further, to be like, surprise, you'll get killed doing that. And that's not a joke. You will get killed doing that. So for me, I wouldn't shake your hand and be like, hi, I'm trans. No. But when it came to us talking intimately or us going past the conversational part, that's when I tell you, because you have the right and you are earned the respect of knowing at that point, but so when I met Chris, he, came up to me thinking I was just a regular schmegula, girl. And the next day is when I told him, because he wanted to go on a date with me. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's great. But before you do, you need to know this. And he, he's from Germany. So they didn't really even have a lot of education about people like us either. So he kind of didn't really like totally get what I was even talking about until he came back home with me, and I went to sleep, but he stayed up and was going through my laptop and saw all my old pictures and the YouTube videos that I had made back then. And he was like, okay, now I get it. But he was still open. He will tell you that he liked me as a person. It didn't have to do with my gender or gender expression. He really liked me. He felt comfortable with me. And that's what, he gravitated towards. Because technically, and not to get too personal about our relationship, but we're not really that sexual because he is straight. He wants to be with women. And we've been intimate, but it's not the same as, he would probably prefer it, but we love each other, and we are each other's life partner. So we deal with the lack of this and that because everything else that we have the blessing to have, we enjoy that more than just the one area that we're lacking in.
That's an important foundation of a relationship. Like, obviously you want to be intimately pleased, but we all know there's going to come a time whether we're healthy or not, but that's not going to be an option. And then you do have times where something happens to a partner or a spouse and it can't be an option. So that foundation definitely has to be something deeper, 100%. So I definitely love that. I did have one more question, but I kind of already know your views on it. And I don't want to really rock the boat, I'm going to be honest, with the trans community.
Rock it.
Because I did want you to share, because one thing I love about you is that we do see a lot of the very radical people in the trans community through social media and on the news.
Those are the only ones that get attention.
Right. Even Caitlyn, lives as a trans woman, but still carries all the privilege and ideologies of a rich white man and can get away with it. So how do you feel about, and this is pretty much my last question, just to show the world a different side and a different thought process. But how do you feel about things like sports, all women spas and gyms, if you haven't fully transitioned or only have transitioned within a certain time frame? Like, do you feel like that matters in the fight of the spaces that should be open or allowed?
To me personally, none of that matters, but it does matter to a lot of the community. As far as like sports go, I am in the unpopular group that feels like we should not be in women's sports. I think that at a certain age group, it'd be fine. When it's like t-ball or, elementary school sports where you're not even, it doesn't matter what sex you are because you haven't grown up to have the strengths or the lack thereof yet, then fine. But when it comes to anything like after puberty, that, we should not be going against regular chicks. Like, I know for a fact I'm stronger than a regular girl. I know for a fact that I, if I were in a physical altercation, that I would have no problem handling myself. So that's why I don't go looking for that kind of stuff, because I'm not trying to be like that, And so I don't feel like we should be in adult or teens sports with regular girls. I think, and it won't happen, but I feel like we should have our own league, if anything. Like the whole bathroom debate. Now they're just doing, unisex bathroom. That's cool and all, but I think, again, the stuff that gets the attention of the public are the very, very like 1% stories. Like, you know, we're not trying to go in there and look at your wives. We're not trying to go in there and touch your kids. That's stupid. And that's just plain ignorance. And those are the type of people that it doesn't matter what they learn or what you tell them, they're not going to care. You know, they're going to be like that till the bitter end. That's why I don't have the energy to even try to change those people's minds. But, and as far as like hormones go, I was a full grown consenting adult whenever I chose to go this way. Now, had been an option when I was younger, that would have been nice, but I didn't get to experience that. So I don't think I have the rights to speak on that because I didn't get to live that part. You know, I didn't get a transition at a young age because it wasn't as prevalent as it is now. But yeah, so I'm in the unpopular opinion of, you know, no, we shouldn't be in women's sports. It does, to me, it should matter what age we start kids on hormones and all that stuff. So, I mean, that's it.
I mean, do you think some of the public fears are valid simply because you do have people like the all women's spa, where he pretty much was still self-presenting as a man. He just said, I identify as a woman. And then they would not kick him out the spa because of the laws in California. They couldn't if they wanted to. But you do have children there. He has a full-blown, his male genitalia. And then come to find out, once the story broke, that he actually had been to jail several times for indecent exposure to children.
I mean, it's sad that is the case, that there are people out there who will use our fight to do their, you know, to do that kind of thing. But all I can say is that for the other 99.9 of us, that is the last thing that we want or is on our mind, you know. And that saying of like, well, every group has its bad apples. That's the only thing I can think of to relate that to, is because that's what it is. There are going to be people out there who use what we're talking about for their alternative means. But for the rest of us, it's not like that. You know, we're just trying to have basic human rights and to just live. We're not, you know, I don't know about the rest of it, but there are going to be people like that unfortunately do that. You know, just like, well, I would think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know, so I mean, it's like the people who, you know, during like the riots and all that stuff, who were looting and this and that, you know, that's a very small percentage of a community who had a real message that they were trying to spread. And then there was that small percentage that took that opportunity and exploited it. That's what I was looking for, exploited an opportunity. I feel like that's what's happening with us, is that there are people out there who are exploiting our fight and our cause for their own personal gain. And that's not how it is for a majority of us.
And that leads me to my next question, honestly, because when that happened, it completely took all of the energy out of the positivity in the message. And every time there was a post on the opposing side or comments, that became the focus. Mm-hmm. Well, they shouldn't be out there protesting because they're stealing and blah, blah, versus a protest and a riot are two different things, first of all. So do you feel like the media highlights?
Of course they do. Of course they do. And that's because of the fact that united we stand, divided we fall. And that's what I wish people would just get to a basic understanding of. These people are benefiting in every way imaginable by keeping us against each other. In every way. It's whenever we come together that we have the power. And that's what they're scared of, is, you know, us coming together, which is happening, you know, slowly but surely, I hope. But, you know, of course, that's why they focus on it, is because it'll keep us bickering at each other. It'll keep that debate going a little longer, you know, so that they can use, again, exploit that message for what they want.
Yeah, we forgot what we're fighting for in the first place. So I definitely agree. Well, you know, I definitely have loved every piece of you I've met, right? So from middle school to high school to us hanging out as young adults, and I kind of could tell you were in a broken state somewhat because it was kind of new to like this new blossoming, like super strong, confident, self-employed boss bitch that you have become. So do you want to take some time to promote anything? You have any other words for the people or anything like that?
Sure. I mean, I promote my new little business, Layla's Barbershop. I'm located in Oklahoma. You can find me on Facebook if you're even open to letting somebody like me cutting your hair. But that's all I'm trying to do, is provide you the best haircut you've ever had. But other than that, I think my biggest message is, again, we have got to stop like with this back and forth between the stuff that to me in the end will not matter if we're no longer around to have opinions on anything. United we stand, divided we fall. And we need to start making that happen, because they're keeping us apart for a reason. They don't want us communicating like me and you for a reason, because then that kind of, closes that gap whenever they want me and you to be sitting here like, well, I'm more woman than you, and we are going to replace women. And matter of fact, men do it so well, we won Woman of the Year. No,
right. And I'm sure somebody wants you to call me a fish, because we don't like that.
Right. No, thank you. I'm not trying to replace anybody. I'm just trying to live.
We don't like being called. So call me. Because I've heard it happen, and some think it's like a term of endearment.
What's funny about that is it is a term of endearment in the gay community. Fish means that you look great. Nobody would be able to tell, but there's also a bad meaning to it too. So I think it just depends on who it comes from.
You need to go douche or shower. That's for fish.
Yeah, complete opposite meaning than when a gay guy says it.
Because here we be, now we're insecure. So, right. But I do think it's important to have conversations, even if in some aspects you can agree to disagree. And I think it's more important to listen to what the other people say, because I see sometimes these conversations are had and it becomes more of each person proving their point versus you brought me on here. Do you want me to tell my truth and my side, or are you trying to make a moment? Right. And that was important for me to try to work really hard, not to create a moment, but just to allow you the space to just open up and talk to your natural women sisters, and let them see the other side of the community. Because like I said, what we see on social media, it is kind of a caricature of the community. I'm sure those people probably are really trans. They probably went through a fight, but money and fame changes people. And it becomes more about the views and the clicks versus like really what you feel inside. So I
appreciate that. And I'm so glad that you provided me the opportunity to do this. And, I think that what you said is important as far as it's okay to have different views on stuff. But when it comes to you as a person, I respect you as a person. So it's okay to, have, negative views about stuff, because in the end, I still respect you as a person and of the life that you want to have. But so, I appreciate you bringing me on here.
Absolutely. And I told you how I felt the other day. So I know we will see you again, because I want to continue to tap in throughout your growth, because I do think this is just the beginning, for sure.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Absolutely. Until next time, Shantel Lamar P. I have a couple of announcements. Be respectful in the comments. If you need her information to her barbershop, I'll put that in the link below.
Thanks, guys.
All right. You have a good one. That's it. All right, gang. I really hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you learned some things, and I hope it taught you a little bit of tolerance. The main focal point of this interview was to just make sure that whether we agree to disagree, that we continue to respect each other. And she's absolutely right. If we're always fighting, we're going to forget the real reason why we should be fighting in the first place. I am hoping to do more interviews with regular, everyday people. And I say that because I can't speak for you guys, but I'm personally tired of celebrities and people with major platforms always being our only voice to represent regular situations. You have people like Ice Spice saying things like colorism doesn't affect her. How many young girls look up to her? Now, I may be misquoting, I didn't read the article, but even the caption doesn't sound good, and sometimes the way things are worded don't come out correctly. Then you have the Black Chines and the Amber Roses, and it makes the dancing world look like it's so glamorous. The Jaz and Hernandezes. What about speaking to someone that may have actually destroyed their life? Or someone that developed a drug habit from it and didn't get to be on reality TV, or did not get to marry or have a baby with a successful rapper? What does their life look like? If we only highlight the celebrities that go through things, because no matter how good their intentions are, they are still speaking in a place of privilege. So I think it's important to hear from people that may have our experiences, but that are regular day people who overcame things. So until next time, see you guys.